Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of our Ivy League series at She Leads To podcast. Today, I have three Yale students with me of the class 2029, and I would just ask you guys to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Kehinde. I'm a first year here at Yale. I'm majoring in global affairs and film.
Hi, my name is Naomi Obasa. I'm a first year in Brantford College, and I'm majoring in political science and ethnicity, race, and migration.
Hi, my name is Hawweraa and I'm a first year in Styles. I'm majoring in Global Affairs and African Studies, and I'm from Minnesota.
Thank you all for joining us. My first question would be, of course, coming into a university with the reputation of Yale, we all have our mental image of what life will be there. Now that you're all here, what has been the biggest gap between your expectations and the daily reality of the workload?
I feel like as a first year, some of the classes I would expect them to be like the most mind-blowing thing, but since we're like still in like introductory classes, it's still like it feels like the typical like classroom environment, and I wasn't like necessarily like shocked by like the things that I was learning yet. But I think that happens like when you like get further into your major and your courses, like you get to get more deep into your interest.
To say, like, for me coming into Yale, like, I was a little shocked by I guess, like, the type of material I was exposed to. This was something I've never really, for example, like, I took intro to microeconomics last semester. I was never exposed to econ of any sort in my background, like in the south suburbs of Chicago. So it was just like pretty difficult to kind of adjust in the beginning. I guess the best way I could describe it was just like feeling like I was in a lecture hall full of people who already knew what was happening, and they were just kind of waltzing through the materials, almost like review. And for me, it just felt like I was sprinting every single day. Like I left every lecture very confused. So that was just something I wasn't prepared for. But I guess now that's not really a feeling I'm scared of anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I was also in that class with her, and like me and Kane, were like we were going through it together, and like yeah, that class like it really taught me a lot about learning. Like I was in that class and I was like, wow, like I don't feel like I am learning anything. Like I felt like everybody knew what was going on, and I was like, oh my God. But it really like taught me like how to study and how to study with other people would be in the library all day studying, 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 studying. And I feel like that not only like built like that type of like trauma bonding built friendships, but it also like really taught me how to learn. Yeah.
For me, I didn't expect the classes to be very, for some of the humanities classes, I feel like they were very discussion based. And I think that was very hard for me because I don't think I'd really developed intellectual language and just I wasn't able to express my thoughts in the way that they expected from us. So I think it was just hard for me to talk a lot in class. And also like people who deal with imposter syndrome too, it makes it even more difficult to be able to talk in front of a group of people. But eventually you have to because it's part of your grade. So I thought that's one thing that I didn't expect. And I think I also expected to not have any free time at all because I'd be very absorbed by my courses. But I feel like I've had a good balance of times where it's been a little bit more stressful and times where it's been less stressful and where I've had time to just relax. But even when you do have free time, you do have to prepare for when you won't. So that's one thing that I thought I learned.
Thank you for that. Of course, you have mentioned that you all were in kind of an environment where everybody already knew something or where just the best of the high school students gathered. How do you handle the transition between being the high achiever at your school and then being one of many?
I can start off with that. I actually made like a short film about like that feeling of like coming from an environment where like I'm basically in a small pond and I was the big fish. And then coming to Yale, like I literally felt like the tiniest fish in like the biggest ocean. And it was very humbling and quite difficult for me to process in the beginning, but I realized that was just like what I needed to push myself to grow. Like, if I'm like the best in every situation, like, how exactly am I really supposed to like improve and grow in different ways? So I know Yale has like pushed me in that regard, where like I don't necessarily have to be like the best at everything here, and I can absolutely learn and collaborate with so many people, and it's just a good way to like push myself out of my comfort zone, and I think that's the only way you can grow.
I think for me, like I was saying with imposter syndrome before, it was kind of shocking to me, but to like go from being always being like the best or being good at everything that I tried or everything that I did in high school to coming here. And like Kende said, it was a very humbling experience, but like there's so much that you can learn from other people by not being the best. And also coming from like a background that's not as privileged as some of the other people at this school, or like coming from a school that doesn't usually send people to Ivy Leagues, um, it's like helpful to know that at least you were able to make it to the same position that other people are at without the same amount of resources or um connections that could have brought you to this school.
Yeah, I agree. When I came to Yale, I didn't expect to feel imposter syndrome because I was like, okay, like I worked hard. Like I'm not like I think I was like trying to like prepare myself for that feeling. So I was like, no, I'm not going to feel it. And I kept telling myself like I'm not going to feel it, so I didn't feel it. But in the end, like I feel like I began to feel it, especially when it came to like being in classes where like I would study and study and study, and then the person in the library next to me is like, "Oh, the test is tomorrow, and I haven't even studied yet," and they still get a better grade than me, and I was like, "Wait, like, what's going on?" Like, um, and it like kind of made me feel like, dang, like maybe hard work isn't enough. And like my whole entire life, I felt like I was described as a hard worker, like that was the compliment that everybody would always give me, like you're a hard worker, you always like get things done and you do it well. But like at Yale, like I would work hard, but I didn't necessarily see like the results from my hard work. And I felt like that was really hard for me because it's like, okay, like if I was known as a hard worker and now my hard work isn't enough, then like what else is there that I can bring to the table? But I think that like Yale is like making me feel more comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like I feel like I'm trying to push myself to try new things because like it doesn't really matter if I'm gonna be the best or the worst because I'm at Yale. Like everybody's the best at something. So if I'm the worst at it, at least I'm trying something new. And I feel like that's a new mindset that I've taken on since I've gotten here.
Do you feel that the institution provides enough resources to combat imposter syndrome there, or is it just a burden that most students just have to carry for another?
I think, okay, from my perspective, I think it's like a good mix. And I think Yale has a lot of resources where it almost feels like too much, to the point where like a lot of students, especially first years, don't even know like where to start. Like coming in, like we're given first year counselors or FROCOs for short. So at least in my case, I relied very heavily on my FROCO. I was always blowing up her phone. Like if something happened, I let her know. Like I always went to have meetings with my dean. Like she knows me very well. Like if something happened, she would know too. And we also have like free counseling here, YC3. And then we also have free therapy service or mental health service here. So like there's definitely ways for us to like, at least from my perspective, that I used, like really rely heavily to combat that actively. But I think it really depends on like how much students take advantage of that. But I think coming from the perspective of like a student of color or Black students specifically, African students specifically, when it comes to imposter syndrome, I feel like Yale students don't talk about what they're struggling with. They're not as vocal about it. So it really becomes a mental thing where you feel like you're the only one, where it's like, baby, I'm drowning, and everybody else is floating around me. So at least I just feel like Yale could do a lot better with like improving the culture of just being a lot more vocal about our wins and our losses. But I don't think we're there yet.
I'd also say like Yale does have a lot of resources to help with imposter syndrome, but I feel like it's also just stems from like a deeper insecurity that you have to be able to overcome on like through like more reflection on your own. And I think a lot of
Mm.
people move on from imposter syndrome. It's not something that I think stays with you your entire 4 years at Yale, but like as you keep getting more comfortable in Yale at Yale and like in your classes and with yourself and being in an intellectual space, I think the imposter syndrome kind of starts to disappear. But I think one thing about imposter syndrome is I think it's heightened when you're a minority, just because being a minority in a space where you already feel like you're less smart, I think just makes it so much worse. Like being a woman in like an all male room or being the only black person in your class, I think just makes it even harder to overcome that imposter syndrome.
Also, a lot of students, I think, that, of course, want real friendships, but only focus or mostly focus on networking because it's mostly professional to use in university, especially at Ivy League schools. But it's also social. But how do you distinguish between a strategic friendship or connection and a genuine friendship?
Actually had a conversation with a friend like about this yesterday. We were getting dinner together. And I definitely do feel like a lot of students here are a bit calculated with their interactions here, where like it can seem a bit transactional, can seem a bit surface level, just to say the least. But I don't know. I think it takes time to really find your people. At least for me, like I noticed that a lot of people who were trying to interact with me were trying to get a read on me, trying to like figure out my background, trying to figure out am I of value to them? And that kind of like irked me and I just kind of distanced myself. But it wasn't until like I kind of gravitated towards like clubs, towards classes that are more aligned with like my identity, aligned with my values. Like I took a Yoruba class. I'm still Yoruba. And I started last semester, and that's where I met Hawweraa and Naomi. And I was like, wait, I kind of like these girls. Like, we're kind of vibing, like, this is tea. And it felt very genuine. It felt very lighthearted. It felt like it wasn't about the fact that we're at Yale and I want to make connections and I want to stay in connections with you just to see if you're going to become somebody. Like, it was never like that. And I found a lot of real, genuine connections through other clubs, like Fly. I also model with Naomi in that club. Um, and yeah, slowly but surely, like I think it takes time. And people, there are very genuine people here. Um, but I think it's with intentionality where you realize who's really kind people and genuine people here.
I also think like what separates genuine friends from social climbers is people who are trying to see how much value you are to them. They don't care if you're losing in life or if, like when they see your losses, they're not trying to help you. They're just like trying to assess like everything about you. But I feel like genuine friends, when you're like taking losses in life, they're going to be there to help you or to support you and they want to see you win all the time. For versus like social climbers who are just they might not want to see you win all the time.
Yeah. I agree. Um, I feel like there's way more like genuine people at Yale than there are social climbers. So I feel like that shouldn't be like a major fear for like people who like haven't been to Yale. I feel like most people here are very nice. And I also agree with Kende, like putting yourself in spaces where you feel like you can explore like different parts of yourself, whether it's cultural background or like um just like your interests. I feel like being around like-minded people, you're eventually going to find people who you like. And yeah, I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'm lucky. I've had a very good experience at Yale with like making friends and like I feel like I did launch and like I think Kende did cultural connections and Yale has like a lot of like programs for like when you first come in your first week of school to like meet new people. Launch is where I met Hawweraa and I feel like having that like program in the beginning of the school year where like you're surrounded by people who have similar interests to you and you're surrounded by like-minded people, it just makes it easier to form friendships with people who are in the same kind of like niche, for lack of better words.
And I feel
Yeah.
like also when you're around social climbers, it's not that hard to tell what they're trying to do. So I think naturally
Yeah.
you just start to distance yourself from people who you can see are trying to do that.
Yeah.
There are, as you've mentioned, of course, clubs on campus as well, or just clubs, campus organizations. But those organizations often do have a lower acceptance rate than the university itself. So, how did you maintain a sense of self-worth when a club you maybe was passionate about just said no or didn't want to accept you there?
I think that's a really good question. And that was like the main thing I was not prepared for whatsoever when coming here. Yeah, I feel like the club rejections are a bit like a harsh reality. And especially when it comes to like things that are a bit arbitrary and less surrounding like if like things that have to do more with like talent, like for example, I tried out for a spoken word team. I didn't make it, and that was very personal for me. Like, I don't know. I'm still kind of like low-key kind of salty about that. But like also acapella, it didn't work out, and I took that so bad. Like I was just getting rejections upon rejections upon rejections upon rejections. And I like felt like along with also struggling with my classes in the beginning, struggling with the transition, struggling with like trying to find people and friends in the beginning. And now on top of this, simple clubs where I want to like express myself and find new friends, I'm still getting rejected. It was very difficult. And that's when I was really relying heavily on like my FROCO, my dean, mental health counseling, and even like my counselor, where I would talk to quite frequently, she said I was probably the fifth person within that same day that came in talking about how they got rejected from this club again. But yeah, I think the rejections are quite arbitrary, and I've learned to not really take it personally anymore, because at the end of the day, like the people making these decisions are also Yale students. So it's just like it's not like some world committee where like it's so established. But yeah, I realized like as long as I'm doing it for myself and I'm not trying to prove myself to anyone, it's really not that deep. And I think rejection is something I have to like learn to get used to in the real world.
I think also, um, I wasn't used to it because in high school, like if you had interest or passion towards something and you wanted to join a club, like you could just join. But here, I think it's just a lot different. I didn't really experience it that much first semester because I tried out for a step team and mostly everyone made it on. There's also a cultural dance group that I joined that everyone was accepted into. And then I tried out for an a cappella group, which was it was pretty selective, but I was able to make it on. But so I didn't really feel that initially. But very recently, like last week, I had my first like painful rejection. I've been rejected, but I think from other things, but I think those times it was more like things I didn't care about as much. But I really wanted to join this pre-law association, and I found out that like there was like my application wasn't even looked at. Like it was just like passed over completely. And like the time that I spent putting into the application like wasn't worth anything. So I think that was a bit painful for me, and it was definitely hard to deal with because it's not like I even had a reason for being rejected. It was just they didn't look at it. And I feel like also a lot of the times the reasons why clubs reject people are like very superficial. Some social groups, they can even reject you if they don't think you're attractive. It's
Yeah.
very
Or
superficial. And
nepotism.
I think, and nepotism, if you don't know someone in the group. So I think you just gotta learn to not take it personally. There's other groups in this school. And also, if there's a group that like rejects you for a reason like that, do you really want to be in it anyway? Would it be somewhere that you'd feel like safe or welcome? So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree with everything that they said. And like, this is also one of the things that I didn't feel like I was prepared for. I feel like I applied to a lot of clubs and I got rejected from a lot of them as well. And like, in the like, those rejections kind of like altered how I perceived my acceptances. Like, if I got accepted into a club, I would be like, "Ugh, it was probably easy to get in anyway. They probably just accepted everyone." Because like, I felt like the clubs that like I actually like really, really, really cared about, like and I put a lot of time into my application. They didn't even like accept me or consider me. And also like a thing about like some of the like club processes at Yale is that they have like rounds. So then you can make it to like the second round and you're like, wait, I have hope, like I could actually get in. You make it to the third round and you're like, wait, like this could actually happen for me. And then you don't make it to the final round and you're like, wait. So I did all this work and now there's like no fruits from my labor. So I feel like it can mess with you a little bit. And I like I said before, like there are there's resources to help you, but I just feel like there's a lack of preparation for first years in particular. Because like we all got into Yale. We all have like a little bit like we're all on our high horse now. Like we got into Yale. We think that like this is the place for us where we're gonna excel. Like we're gonna find the exact places that we want to be, where we need to be. And then like you think that like you have this one club that's meant for you, and then the club doesn't think you're meant for them. And you're like, yeah, I don't know. It's like a thing that you just have to eventually get used to. And like Hawweraa said, like you can't take it personally because like the more time that I've spent here, I really realized how arbitrary club acceptances and rejections are sometimes. And sometimes it's like it's not about like your ability to like do the club or like their position properly, but like sometimes it's the budget, sometimes it's the person who's picking, they have someone that they know that they would prefer, or sometimes it's just like they had a better applicant, and that's also okay. And that's just a reality that you have to get like accustomed to.
Definitely. All of you, of course, came in with an extremely good application, probably just a long list of extracurriculars. And then going into Yale, probably just had to let a lot of it go, something you've done for a lot of years. And then trying to get into clubs and continue that passion, then getting rejected is just a kind of course, hard thing. Did you guys decide once when you saw, okay, those clubs are student run and they just don't offer everyone that opportunity, or those who get the opportunity is just unfair? Did you ever had the urge to kind of create your own space and opportunity within the campus or the groups?
Do like have those feelings quite a bit. But I realize it does take quite of time and like commitment to like start a club, get people on board, be a part of like I guess essentially the president. Like it's being on like any type of exec board or just board generally is just like they want you to eat, sleep, and breathe like that role. Like so for sure I've
Hmm.
had my own like aspirations. Like me personally, I want to double major in film. And I feel like the film space is quite white, just to like no lack of like I just that's the way I see it. And I submitted one of my films to the film festival. It was rejected, and then I later found out that like the board didn't even watch my film. Like they just rejected it, and it was a whole thing. And I do feel like there were also like racial undertones as to, like how that came about. But I've had a lot of feelings of like wanting to just start like my own Black film club here at Yale, to create spaces for Black filmmakers where like we don't really have to like water down our stories, or even just like kind of make people comfortable in the room to like feel like we're accepted in these spaces and get opportunities to like break in the film industry and whatnot. So those are just like my own personal aspirations, probably like forming a type of club or like some type of mentorship program for just like specifically Black girls who are in middle school, elementary, high schools in the New Haven area, since I also was like a mentor for like a female empowerment mentorship program in high school. So those are just like two things that I'm still like keeping in the back of my mind, and I really want to like make some changes around here.
Yale has this thing called the CPA grant, and like that's one of the things that like I love about Yale. Like if you have an idea here, Yale will find a way, like whether it's through the Sci Center or Sci City or through your like residential college, there's usually a form of funding for you to bring your idea to life. And with the CPA grant, they typically like fund like more like creative ideas, like whether it's art, plays, or like anything of that nature. And I feel like in the future, like I would love to like write a play and like produce that and like have that be like my contribution to Yale. That's like my own thing. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to like create your own club or just make your ideas come to life in general at Yale?
I haven't necessarily thought of starting a club, but recently I've been a little interested in using the Sci Center for Innovation, and using those resources to have a startup. I'm not exactly sure what kind of startup yet, but I'm looking into it.
Yeah.
Great to hear. We from University also have heard a lot of concerns on how the space is there or how universities generally deal with minorities. And we actually are also planning to start some workshops on uni campuses all over the world. So let me know if you would be interested in that as well. Also, another question, of course, is there will be a lot of women coming after you, also a lot of Afro-American women coming after you. How do you try to hold the door open for them while also trying to find, of course, your own footing on those grounds?
Me, I genuinely believe that like representation absolutely matters. And I'm the type of person where I have this philosophy that like once I make it to the top, I don't believe in like kicking down the ladder and then like having people figure out like how to get up. Like I should teach people more efficient ways to like build their own stairs, make an elevator to get there quicker, better, and bring more people along. I've tried like in my own small ways of like posting online. Like I really like making editing videos, like posting on TikTok, YouTube, just to like show people online that there are people who look like you who absolutely can get into Ivy League schools. And like it wasn't because of like affirmative actions, because I fought for my spot there, and that's all it is. So yeah, just kind of using like social media like mediums, whether it's like get ready with me's or just like posting a short film or like a cute little vlog, even if it doesn't really get like that many views, it's just like knowing there's at least one black girl who's like seen one of my videos, like I don't know, that gets my heart racing, like, and just pushes me every time. Yeah, because I remember just watching videos of like Black women getting to Cambridge and Oxford, having a podcast. Courtney Daniela Boateng, Renee Kapuku, those are like my role models. They have a podcast called To My Sisters. And that's when I actually started believing in myself and thinking, like, maybe I can get into Harvard, maybe I can get into Yale, maybe I can get into Stanford. And I got into all of those schools. So I want to like really encourage more Black girls to feel like the sky is genuinely the limit.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I think social media is a big one because before I came into Yale, I was definitely watching a lot of Black Yaleys, Black Ivy League vloggers and TikTokers, and I was trying to get advice or just some kind of direction before I got here and just figure out how to navigate Yale as a Black woman. And I think even with the videos when I got here, I felt very lost. And so I think one thing is just to be open as a person, just as someone that they can talk to or ask any questions to. Because I feel like even with the Froco or PL, I just felt a little lost on like who to ask all these questions that I had. And I feel like with the experience of already having 1 year like under my belt, I think I just being like open to answering any type of like questions or thoughts is really helpful to other Black women who are figuring out a space like.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the Black community here at Yale, or like even like especially the Black women, like they have been such mentors for me, and like they just inspire me in so many ways. Like anytime that I have a question, I feel like there's at least like there's someone out there that like I could ask. Like if I don't, if even if they don't know like how do I explain this? Like if they don't have like the experience in a certain like subfield, they would ask someone that they know in that subfield to help me. Like everybody within the Black community at Yale and like women at Yale, they're all very interconnected and they have the like passion to help each other. Um, I feel like most people here like they don't want to see like anybody like struggle. They're always going to try to like find a way to like help uplift like people that are especially younger than them that look up to them.
Yes, of course. I mean, also for international students, I believe is also a big transition as well. For example, I also aspire to go to Ivy League school one day as well, but it's just very hard to find also German students that come from the same background as me. So I'm also on the research always to find a mentor before I even go in there or apply. But of course, being there and having those leadership roles, having to let go of leadership roles as well, it's of course also a bit hard to be as a woman in a space where it's historically male dominated or designed for men as well. What does leading look like to you in 2026? Is it about being at the front of the room, or is it about the work that you normally do behind the scenes?
Suppose for me, it's a mixture of like both. Yeah, I think trying to like be a good example for a lot of like, the girls who are like back in my high school or like my hometown, just like seeing the things that I'm doing, like I think leading is really just kind of like having the courage to like tell your story. That's what one of my friends told me recently to just like remind me, encourage me like of my purpose of why I'm here at Yale. And I think my purpose here is to like transform pain into like beauty and purpose and to like really encourage people to like remember their why. So, yeah, I think me living in my purpose is me in a way leading and like kind of speaking life into people as well, being my authentic self. It really gives people like the ability to feel comfortable to like also like be who they're actually supposed to be, especially here at Yale, but also back home. Yeah, because if everybody's just being like fake or like robotic or like trying to stick to a script, you're also a follower, like, you know? So just being, having the courage to be yourself, having the courage to like be an outlier in a sense, be unique in a sense, will give everybody else the same courage to like grow into their full purpose as well. So that's like that's how I view I guess leadership.
I can go. I feel like for me personally, I'm still trying to figure out like what leadership means to me. So I feel like I don't have like a direct answer because like in my first year, I feel like my definition of like leadership has like shifted drastically. Like I feel like in the past, I used to be like the person that's like always like guiding conversation, the one that's like directly in control of it. But I feel like I'm kind of like relinquishing that definition of leadership, and I'm more so like I don't know, like I'm still in the exploratory phase of like defining what being like a leader means to me. So yeah.
Being a leader as a woman, I think also it's a little difficult. I was in a club where they were trying to pick a new assistant leader, and they ended up choosing the guy because they felt like the woman wouldn't be able to command the room as well, which I thought kind of made me feel um I was kind of like interested by that. I was like, I think it's because she was also kind of a shy person, but I think being a leader while being shy, more shy or reserved or quiet, I think also you can be someone that can guide people, and it doesn't always have to be through being a loud person or being able to command a room, which I think people don't always see women as being capable of, but just being having a while also being who you are, even if it's not someone who's like a more authoritative figure, is just it can be difficult, but I think it can be done.
Yes, leadership is also often associated with male figures or male qualities, just like being loud or being extreme in certain situations like authority. But this is definitely something I think is going to shift because of different initiatives, but also how we are progressing in time. But as example, for the woman that was basically her presence was questioned or role was questioned, how would you deal or how would you encounter a situation where you feel like your presence is being questioned? Whether it's just a thorough or through a subtle like comment or being overlooked in a group project, what is your reset ritual or how do you regain confidence in such a situation?
I think just being able to stand your ground and show what you're capable of It kind of sucks that we have to always have to like prove ourselves time and time again. But I think if you want to show people that you're capable of doing what they think you can't, you just have to keep proving it.
Yeah.
For me, like, I don't know, like, even like some conversations I would have, like, maybe some people who are just like in a very different bubble here at Yale, you'll realize like they don't even let you contribute to the conversation, like when you're like all eating lunch together. They're talking about like these very, like, just very niche things and just like already automatically assuming that like I just don't understand, and like sometimes I'll have one of my male friends like introduce me, like try to help me get in the conversation, like let them know like I'm also here. And it's like quite discouraging in a sense too. But I'm just like again slowly realizing that my job here is not to prove myself. Like I my job is to like care less about what people think of me. What people think of me is literally none of my business. Like I need to lock in on like why I'm here, my purpose, my why. So I guess like kind of like grounding myself in that sense and realizing that, the world doesn't really make space for Black people, most especially Black women. And like my job is just to like grab my chair and just like sit at the table, listen, observe, and learn, but also like contribute as well. So yeah.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I would just wouldn't address it if I was in that situation. Like if somebody was like talking about me or like trying to like disprove my like leadership in some capacity, I feel like sometimes like especially as a Black woman, you try to confront them about it, they're either just going to be like denying that they ever said anything, or if you have like a reaction, which you're like deserving of having, like you can be characterized as an angry Black woman. So I think oftentimes like the best way to just like make your statement is to just keep being a good leader. Focus on what's objective. Like, I'm objectively a good speaker. I'm objectively good at leadership. I'm objectively good at like sharing my ideas. And like, when you keep reminding yourself of like what's true and what's factual, like nobody can really take that away from you. I know it's like it's definitely frustrating, but like that's why we have community, we have friends. Like, if I was in that situation where like a man was trying to like come for my leadership, I would definitely like Kehinde and Hawweraa would definitely be hearing about it. But I think that like I would definitely like try to prove them wrong with my talent, with
Period.
Thank you. As a closing question, as you look toward the next 4 years, what is one legacy you hope to leave behind at Yale, and
Mm.
what do you want your history or legacy to represent?
I could go first. I feel like this is something that I also didn't expect coming into Yale, but like my mind has been changing up about my major like all the time. Like I don't know if I want to be global affairs, I don't know if I want to be political science at ERNM, or if I want to be ethics, politics, and economics. Like my mind keeps on changing. But one thing that I do know for certain is that I don't want my like biggest accomplishment in life to be the fact that I got accepted into Yale. And I don't know exactly what my impact is going to be because I'm still even making my mind up about my major. But I do know that like I want like anything that I do at Yale or like after Yale to be something that I'm passionate about and something that like speaks to communities that are important to me.
I guess for me, I don't necessarily have the goal of like having a legacy here, or like not in like the literal sense of like maybe my future kids coming to Yale, but just like leaving like the typical type of legacy you would think of when you say she went to Yale, she made this much money, became a billionaire, and then she's giving money to Yale now. Like that's like the last thing on my mind. I guess for me, like my goal is to just like make Yale feel more like a place that's human. Like I feel like everybody's so robotic, everybody's so like go, go, go. Like we use our Google calendars a lot. I do too. That's how I function. But it's just like everything's so fast paced, everything's so like on the go. Like there's no time to like really be intentional, and like it takes a lot of effort to just like make genuine connections here. So I hope I'm just like that babe that's remembered as like the one who made everybody feel comfortable in the room, to feel more human, to be human, to like kind of relate on the fact of like we share this sense of humanity, and just spreading kindness and like helping people walk in their purpose and find their purpose, and one day like kind of flourish and grow into that because they met me at Yale, and because they had a friendship with me at Yale, and because like, we crossed paths at Yale. Yeah, that's like my greatest goal. And I also agree with Naomi, like, God forbid being at Yale is like the biggest thing I ever accomplished. That's like the last thing I want.
Yeah, I agree with what Kende said. I want to be remembered as here is just somebody who was always authentic. And also I think that I want people to see me as a resource because I'm always available to help people who are younger than me or don't have as much experience. And I think that's one thing that I want to be able to do for people when I'm able to leave Yale and pursue my passions and do well in the world. I just want to be able to provide for the people because I was there at one point and I know what it was like to feel lost and feel like there wasn't any hope. And I feel like that's kind of what I've been doing with some of my people from my high school and going back to help them with their Ivy League applications. And once I make it out of Yale, I just want to know that I can be a resource to people. And I think that's what I want my legacy to be.
Thank you, all of you, for sharing your insights and also feelings about being there and answering the questions so thoughtfully. So, thank you for everyone for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.